Hello and welcome to Techiechap. In today's episode we are going to be looking at an Arch Linux release, and the release in question is called Manjaro. So, will Manjaro convert me to the ways of Arch? Find out after the intro. So this is the welcome screen to Manjaro, and this is what you are greeted with when you first install Manjaro. So a very nice hello application, and it says thank you for joining our community, which is very nice. The application itself, if you look very carefully just under the title bar there, you can see the version of Manjaro that we are running, which is Quanos 21.2.6, and I am running this in XFCE environment as well. So if we launch the web browser and we just take a look at the Manjaro website, you can see here that it's a very slick and well presented website, to be expected because it is a company, so they have put a lot of effort and work into making this look professional and slick, and they also have their own products. So for example, you can see their mini PC on the browser window there, which looks, in fairness, to be really slick and really nice. I'd love to give that a go at some stage if I ever get the money to afford it, but it looks really nice anyway. Under the shop here, you'll also see various other things, merch and accessories, etc., that they do as well. So if you click on Try Manjaro here, and you get presented with the various ISOs that you can download to try. The first one that you take a look at on the page is the XFCE version, which is what I have running here. I thought it would be good to try the XFCE desktop environment, given that I've tried KDE, GNOME and Pantheon desktop environments in my previous reviews. I thought I may as well try XFCE. So you scroll down, you've got a few more options for downloading different desktop versions. So you have KDE Plasma 21.2.6, which of course has the latest version of KDE as well, if you are a KDE fan. And you have a GNOME version as well, which again has the latest version of the GNOME desktop environment. So that is really nice. Really easy to download the ISO from their website, and of course it is free. So if we close Firefox for the time being, going back to the Manjaro hello screen, you've got some nice documentation here. So if you click on wiki, it will launch the Firefox window and take you straight to their wiki page. It's got a lovely amount of information here on troubleshooting, desktop software management, all sorts of things in here which are quite useful for the new user. I should probably say what Manjaro is, for those of you who don't know. Manjaro is based on Arch Linux. What's Arch Linux, I hear you ask? Well, Arch Linux is quite different to, say, for example, Debian. So whereas Debian is considered a stable release, updates to Debian don't come too often. They're very well tested and managed before they get released to the general public. Arch is a rolling distribution. That means you get the very latest cutting edge applications out there, and a lot of users like the idea of that. However, with cutting edge applications, cutting edge desktop environments, bleeding edge kernels, you can get issues. In fact, if you go onto many Arch forums, you'll find most well-seasoned Arch users will say Arch isn't really for the new users or the newbie users who aren't used to Linux. However, if you're someone who wants to get under the hood of Linux, in that you are going to experience issues at some stage with Arch Linux, then yeah, Arch Linux is a really good distribution So what is Manjaro? Well, Manjaro is almost like a friendlier version of Arch Linux. It's like a way into Arch without a lot of the pain. It gives you the desktop environment out of the box. It gives you the software manager and various tools out of the box, and also on top of that, a lot of stuff just works. So, for example, my webcam, my microphone, this laptop, for example, has worked. Everything has worked, even and including my Broadcom wireless adapter has worked without me having to fiddle around with it. That's the other difference as well. So the Arch repositories can reach into commercial and non-commercial repositories, whereas the Debian released based around apt, in general you have to do a lot of fiddling to reach into third-party and commercial repositories if you want to really reach into those things, whereas Arch kind of comes with that out of the box. So you will find the very latest kernel with Manjaro, or at least the very latest stable version of the kernel with Manjaro. You will find that a lot of your accessories will tend to work with Manjaro as well because of that latest kernel. And of course, given that it's based on Arch, you can indeed even upgrade your kernel to the very latest kernel if you want to try that. Another reason why people like Arch is something called the AUR, the Arch User Repository. And if we just click on the M here and we click on software, type software, and we get this software manager come up, which is very nicely presented. You've got categories, so you can go into various categories. If you want to go to games, you've got all sorts of games in here. Photo and video. It kind of just gives you everything, and it's up to you to have a look through them. And it has its featured applications as well, that it says maybe you want to give those ones a try. Yeah, if you click on the three little dots up here, you get taken to the options, and if you click on preferences, I'll just type in my password, authenticate. So you get the option to change your update frequency. Mine's currently set to the default, which is 6 hours. Automatically download updates. You can either turn that off and on. This radial button goes green when it's on. At the moment, the default for Manjaro is set to off. So you will be getting quite a stable experience with the default settings of Manjaro. Also, you get to change your mirrors where your downloads come from. So that's a really good idea, particularly if you are experiencing slow downloads. At the moment, I'm not really experiencing any slowness in terms of downloads, but you can choose a country that is closest to you, and there are quite a selection. So, for example, United Kingdom, I may as well change that, refresh my mirrors, and I will then get the latest list from the United Kingdom, and downloads will be even faster. To enable the AUR, I click on third party and I simply click on enable AUR support, and again you can check for updates and so on from there, the Arch user repository. I'll disable it for now since I'm reviewing, and I don't particularly want to upgrade applications at this stage whilst I'm reviewing and running OBS on this box. But the AUR is highly recommended if you want to try the very latest user applications out there in the community. You can also enable Flatpak support out of the box and enable Snap support as well, which is really nice. So you get access to pretty much anything and everything out there in terms of applications. Which makes it Flatpak and Snap also make things really easy and simple to install. So the software manager on this is really nice. It's not as slick as some software managers. It would be lovely if at some stage in the Linux world there was a software manager that did look really slick. not to bring Windows into the conversation, but the Windows App Center looks great. If we could take a few tips from there, it'd be really great, and I think benefit the Linux community as a whole, because we have some great applications in the Linux community, and certainly I feel some better applications than are available within Windows. And even within the Apple ecosphere as well. So I think we really deserve a software manager that really showcases those great applications that we have in the Linux world. But hey, mini rant over. Going back to Manjaro, so welcome screen is really nice. If we take a look at the file manager and we just click on about, we are running the Thunar file manager. For XFCE. It's a very, very basic file manager. I would say this simply does the job. You don't get any sort of slick features like you would do with Dolphin File Manager. For example, Dolphin File Manager has the split windows, so you can easily copy from place to place on the Dolphin File Manager. Nothing like that in here. This is a very simple but fast file manager, and it does have previews enabled out of the box as well, although I don't think there's a way of actually customizing what you can preview on. So for example, if I had a different type of file in here, would it be able to preview that? I don't know, because there's no options in here to allow different types of preview. What there is in here is behavior. So a bit like the KDE desktop environment, if you prefer single click to activate items, you can choose that as well, and you can actually set the delay as well if you want to open a delay on an item before it gets selected, which is quite nice as well. That's one of the sort of features built in with XFCE. So if we just right click on the desktop, in terms of what you can launch from the desktop, because this is XFCE, you can get access to your application straight away. That's one of the main things of XFCE is right click on the desktop and you can immediately jump to your applications without having to go to the start menu down here. Obviously, if you're coming from a Windows environment, having the start menu down here is really nice. And also you can resize this start menu bar as well, which is also really nice, and it will remember that size as well. So for example, if I make it really big, click away from it, and it's remembered the size of the menu bar when I've clicked away from it as well. So really nice that just works, and a nice little bit of customization. If I type Kdenlive, it comes straight up, and that's nice. That all works fine. If I just bring up Kdenlive, you can see it's 21.12.3, which is the very latest version of Kdenlive, which is quite nice, really nice. In fact, it'd be good to have a play around with that. If I click on desktop settings, that is going to take me into, funny enough, desktop settings. What you can't do from here is change the resolution. That of course is done through the monitors application or screen application. But if we just take a quick look here, you can see there are quite a selection of backgrounds, really nice ones in fact as well. So you've got some quite amusing ones like this one. You've got some really sort of slick ones like this, which looks really nice. Yeah, there's some really nice desktop wallpapers on here. Of course, you get the default Manjaro ones as well. I think for this review, let's take a look and see. Oh, this looks really nice. Okay, yeah. Also interesting, I'm not sure if this is a bug or if it's just me, my mouse icon on the desktop whilst I'm on the desktop is huge, really big. I'm not sure why that is. I've kind of got used to it now, but yeah, just a bit odd that. But if I go into an application, let's just launch an application here, Kdenlive. You'll see that the mouse pointer then changes to normal size. So a little bit odd that I've got a large mouse pointer when I'm on the desktop and when I'm using the XFCE tools like Thunar, but then when I go into an application, my mouse pointer changes to regular size. So don't quite get that, but I don't mind it too much either. So it's not a huge, big issue for me. Yeah, so in terms of what you get with Manjaro, if we just make this slightly smaller, obviously you get Firefox. You've seen that. If we just launch Firefox again, you get the latest version of Firefox. In this case, this is version 100, built for Manjaro 1, which is quite nice. Yeah, really, again, the theming is all very consistent and very nice. You will, of course, get pretty much the bleeding edge of applications within Manjaro. I have to say, this experience of Manjaro, as so far, I've been running it for about a day now, has been fairly good, really nice. Everything detected on installation. My Broadcom wireless detected on installation. My Ethernet, the UHD screen has been detected properly. My everything pretty much works out of the box, and I think that's one of the nice things about this release. Manjaro's worked hard at getting a lot of stuff to work, and of course, because it's based on a very recent kernel release, it's going to detect a lot of hardware. I should say a little bit again about the taskbar down here, or the panel. You can, a bit like KDE, you can move this panel about, you can change its preferences, you can change whether it's horizontal, you can change whether it's vertical or a desk bar like this. I'm going to keep it at horizontal, so you can really sort of play around with it as well, and you can change the whether it's transparent using the opacity settings as well. So it's all really quite customizable. I would say XFCE is quite close to KDE in terms of its customization. You can kind of make this quite easily look and feel the way you want it to, but I do like this Manjaro theming out of the box. You also have access to the spaces, so if, for example, I launch a web browser on here and I'll just minimize that. I have that on the window. You can see on this space down here that I've got Firefox running, and then if I want to start something else, then I can just click here, and then if I want to do a bit of text editing, let's launch OnlyOffice, which comes bundled with Manjaro. OnlyOffice is kind of like a massive clone of Microsoft Word. It really does look a lot like Microsoft Word. Not quite sure how they get away with that, but they do. And hey, it's quite nice and quite friendly. I'm not sure why the bars and everything else are so huge on here. I think that's a problem with scaling and might need me to fiddle around with it to kind of sort that out. But yeah, it comes bundled in. Sorry, I was going to keep that up and running, wasn't I? So text, OnlyOffice, desktop editor. We'll wait for that to come up, and okay, so I'll keep that up. So you can see again, if I want to flip between the two, it's quite nice. So that's your workspace settings and workspace switches. You can change, you can have as many workspaces as you like, and you can switch them down here. So it's quite nice. So if you're doing two separate pieces of work and you need to flip between the two quickly without alt tabbing, that's quite nice. You can do that. In terms of other accessories, you've got a nice bulk rename tool which comes with XFCE. You've got G Calculator, Ngrampa Archive Manager is their sort of zip file manager, compressed files manager. You've got Clipboard Manager, which I should also mention, which is down here. So when you are cutting and pasting quite a lot, you can actually take a look at your Clipboard Manager, and if you're trying to find something that you've copied and pasted before, then you can use your clipboard manager to actually go into that and find that item, which is really nice, rather than having to go back and then sort of copy that line of text that you had before and paste it again from wherever you found it. You've got a nice clipboard manager to keep all that history, which I think is really quite cool. And again, it's nice that it's enabled by default. In terms of games on here, you've got Steam Runtime is installed by default with Manjaro, which is interesting. No other games on here, but of course you can go to the PAMAC Software Center and install whatever you want to. Graphics, you have GIMP installed by default, which is interesting, and you get the default sort of document viewer. You got a G color picker as well, and a nice sort of image viewer as well. Internet, we've seen that Firefox is installed, but you also get Pigeon Internet Messenger, and I've already mentioned Thunderbird is your default email client. You've got Audacious for listening to music, which is quite nice. It's quite a very simple sort of tool for listening to MP3s and so on. It's very simple to use. And I've installed Kdenlive and OBS Studio. Obviously, I'm using OBS Studio at the moment to record this. So actually, whilst I've mentioned that, let me just bring up the system or monitor, or in this case, because it's XFCE, Task Manager, and let's just see what resources are being used, given that I'm recording a fairly high-res desktop, and I've got OBS running with webcam and microphone input. If I just launch Firefox as well, it's not really doing too much. Actually handling things really well. So the fans have gone up slightly on this Dell as I'm doing this, but given that I'm recording everything and playing around in the browser as well, it's handling what I'm throwing at it quite well. And my CPU usage, if I minimize that, is down to 26-29%. So really well, XFC really uses the resources really well. Going back to what's bundled in, we've already had a look at OnlyOffice, which is your Office application bundled with Manjaro. If we click on Other, when you install Manjaro, you get the option to install printing or cups options, which I would recommend if you have a printer to install that from the off. But you also get HP utilities, which is quite nice if you are a HP printer user like me and you also have a scanner on that HP printer. So I've installed the scanner as well. So that's really nice that you get the option to do that. Under settings and under system, you actually get a bit of repetition because settings and system are kind of similar, but of course you get the appearance, which we've already had a look at. Under settings, desktop as well, so we've already had a look at. That's the wallpapers, and if we click on here, you can change your Bluetooth adapters if you've got Bluetooth accessories. Display for changing the resolution and the scaling. You can set custom scaling as well if you want to, which is pretty cool. I'll need to have a play around with that, given that I've got a UHD screen, but you can see that it has detected all the resolutions and indeed supports all the resolutions you could possibly want on this UHD screen. So again, really, really nice. So what are my overall thoughts of Manjaro? Well, it's given me a bit of nostalgia because I used to run Antigros, which was used to be a distribution that was also based on Arch. I was running that around 2015, and I ran that for a good 2 years, and it was a really solid release, really good. And at the time, Antigros was seen as a kind of welcome to Arch distribution, and I think Manjaro has kind of taken that place quite well. I know there is Endeavour OS as well, which is also based around Arch, and that's kind of seen as a spiritual successor to Arch. Sorry, to Antigros. But for me, Manjaro is really nice, very slick. And it's something that I think I will keep on here for a short time to really play around with and get to grips with, not just because it's Manjaro, but also because it's XFCE. I have to say, I am really impressed at the way the XFCE desktop environment handles resource and the way it manages resource, given all that's happening on this laptop at the moment, all I'm running on here, and I'm only using 25% processor. Overall, what's my thoughts on Manjaro? Is it something I would recommend? It's something I would recommend if you have had an experience of Linux for a little while. I don't know how stable it is because I haven't run this for a long time. I'm going to run this for a little while and see what the experience is. I think given the default settings that are provided by Manjaro, I think that I would guess that the experience on this would be pretty stable because you're not downloading updates automatically and installing them automatically, so really things shouldn't change that much. It will download and install important security updates, but in terms of other updates, that's up to you to install and manage. So I think that's actually quite a nice way of tapping into the latest versions of software, but also having the stability that you need to run day to day. So I'm going to carry on running this for a little while. I'm enjoying this experience, particularly the slick XFCE desktop environment. I think it's really nice. That's my review of Manjaro. I have to say, quite a pleasing distribution. I'm really enjoying this, and I'm really enjoying the XFCE for desktop environment as well. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have, I'd love to see any comments down below. If you really enjoyed this review and you like my other reviews on the channel, then please consider clicking on like and subscribe. I really enjoy reviewing these desktop environments and these Linux and BSD releases. And occasionally I have the specials as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.